Hey.
Hey. I found your videos on TikTok about your near-death experience, and I was completely hooked about it. I've been always drawn to all these kind of topics, but I especially have a curiosity about the afterlife. So one day I was meditating, and the idea of doing this with you just popped up in my head. I know this information can be really important for some people, can change lives. And I know this because years ago, two of my family members transitioned, and I know how healing and comforting this information can be. So thank you for doing this.
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Let's begin. Tell me about your near-death experience.
Okay, so it was intense. It was actually for a sacred ceremony that I was doing. So it was intense. I was with some friends. I had done a lot of like psychic intuitive work for a while at this point. And this ended up happening. I was doing like a ceremony, a sacred ceremony with mushrooms. And I had done them before. I had lots of experience with them before. So I knew what I was getting into. And basically, my body did not like it this time. So I had so the gist of it, the details of it for the physical body was that I had like an adverse reaction to them that sent me into, and the seizures caused me to stop breathing for a while. And that's what was happening in like the physical realm. But yeah, it was supposed to be like a sacred ceremony, and I knew right away that something was wrong. Like I knew instantly that this was not how it was supposed to go.
In the moment you took the mushrooms?
Yeah, probably within 30 seconds I knew something was wrong, because I had experience before with that, and this particular instance I felt my whole body was just having a very weird reaction to it. We found out later that I was just having like brain issues and like circulation issues that caused the seizures and everything to happen. But I didn't know that going into it, obviously. I thought I was fine. And yeah, it was incredibly intense. So within probably 30 seconds, I started feeling like my body was reacting very funny, very abnormally. And I started losing touch with reality, which are all very normal things, you know, in that circumstance. But this was very different. It was happening within seconds. And and I was like, I guess I'm in it. I have to just keep going. I have to keep following it. And the first thing I started to notice was I began losing touch with reality around me. And it felt like something was yanking me from my back between my shoulder blades. Like there was a hook there or something, and it was yanking me backward out of my body. And so the start of it is I kept fighting it, and I kept trying to like fight that yanking pull feeling. And at some point along the way, these beings ended up appearing around me, these like light beings, these like energetic forms, and they were really friendly.
Were you already out of your body, like in that moment?
No, not yet. Not yet. I started getting scared, and these beings showed up to like guide me, and they kept telling me to relax, like I would be okay. That it was okay to just relax into it and let it pull me. Because I knew what it was supposed to. So a lot of people experience what's called like an ego death in those situations. And I've experienced that before. So I knew what that felt like. And I knew that this was not that. This was something else entirely. This was very like physical in my body. So I was scared. I felt like, oh, my something's wrong. And because I was scared, that was sort of these energetic beings kind of showed up. And I knew I didn't recognize their faces. I didn't recognize them as like family members or anything, but I could feel them. and see them. And they were very caring and very like loving and protective of me. And they just kept assuring me, relax, relax, you're okay, you're okay. And I kept trying to fight it. And I was like, no, 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 I can't, like something's wrong with my body, this is happening. And they just kept saying, relax, relax. And I started getting this visualization that they were showing me. And it looked like a loading bar on a screen, you know, like if you're like loading a file and it's at like 90% and, you know, 100%. And it felt like my body was this memory card, and that I had collected all of this experience and all of these memories and all these dreams inside of me. But it felt like I was reaching this point where I was at like 97%, like something was about to my memory card was about to be full. And so that made me scared, because I was like, I don't know what this means, what's going to happen. And in the back of my, well, not in the back of my mind, I knew intuitively what was going to happen. I was like, if I hit 100%, I'm going to go somewhere. Like once I hit 100% on that bar, I'm going to be taken somewhere. And so I was trying to fight that for a while, and they just kept telling me, relax, relax, it's okay. And then finally, at one point in it, and this was when the seizures were really bad, and I was like, I stopped breathing and stuff. I felt the bar get to like 99%, and I finally just sort of like stopped and just sort of like surrendered to it. And as soon as I did, that's when I felt myself get like yanked like above my body, like through the middle of my, like right between my shoulder blades. It was just like something yanked me straight up there. And then I hovered there for a second.
Wow. Okay. What did you feel when you left your body? Like, did you feel, I heard some people feel like a relief. Did you feel something?
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah, because there was so much, I was so afraid at the beginning of it, and it was very violent. My body was having a violent reaction to it. And it hurt physically. And everything felt like it was just like about to like explode in my body. And I was like, it was just, they're very violent seizures. So as soon as I like surrendered to it though, it got like popped out. It was just like calm, because it was just like I was no longer in my body. It was just like all of that had stopped instantly.
Wow.
And then I was in the room for like a second. I could see like the room, and I could look down and kind of see my body down there, but I wasn't there very long. And then I went into this place where it was just all light, but not like white light. I saw multicolored light. It was just like the most amazing colors. And those beings that had been with me leading up to that point, they were there also, but they no longer had their bodies. They were a part of the light. And I was swimming in it. And it was just like this pool of just, I don't know how to explain it, this like infinite pool of like multicolored energetic light. And instead of seeing the like outlines of the bodies and the beings that I had seen before, I could just, I could feel them there. Like I was them and they were me, and we were all part of the same light. And I was just like one perspective.
All energy like merged in a way?
Yeah. Yes, but it almost feels like the opposite of merging and like just so if I could explain it, it's as if there's this infinite pool of light, and it felt like us and everything is kind of this like, it's like gloop, like this light comes down into this like form or whatever from it, like it just kind of gloops down from it, and this was going back into it. So it felt like the beings that I had seen their outlines before, that were trying to like calm me down and like take care of me and stuff, they presented themselves in that form so that I would feel safe and that I could have that, but that form was just a way for me to connect with them, and that they were taking, and once I was into that light, I didn't need them to have a body anymore, because I didn't feel like I needed a body anymore. So we were both able to become this infinite pool of light where we were just I don't know how else to explain this other than it just was. It was just, And I know like in the Bible and a lot of people, they always talk about the words like I am. And that really is the best way to describe it. It was just this infinite energy just was. It was just inevitable. It was everything. It was just matter of fact. And it was so tangible and so real. I could feel it. I was part of it. It was so real and so, it just was. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just, oh, there it is. Like, and we're a part of it, and it's part of us, and we just are it. And it was just so simple, and it was just all of this, and it was understanding that like we are here as these collections of ideas and beliefs and thoughts that are taking form in these human bodies to share them and to experience them from all these different points of view. And up there, it was just sort of like all of the shells that we create, like our bodies and everything, or just anything in 3D physical form, all of those beliefs can kind of melt away. So all that's left is just that consciousness. And it's just this, I don't know how else to explain it other than it was just so matter of fact. It was just like, it just was. And it was just so simple and pure. And it was just like, oh, there it is. Like, I don't know. It was
So simple.
It was both, it was so simple and so everything at the same time. All the stories were gone about it. And it just was matter of fact.
And did it feel more alive than this, or it was like a dream, or what is the difference between here and in that state?
Yeah, I don't think there is much difference, honestly. Okay. I think that they're similar. I think that we just focus. I think that consciousness and that energy really is the consciousness, and we focus it here in this physical body. Right. But when we lose the body, that consciousness doesn't really. It's still there. It's still in the pool. You know, it's almost like looking through binoculars, you know, and like if you remove the binoculars, you're still seeing, like the sight is still there. You're just, everything's going to look different because you remove the binoculars. Right. But it's not like there's something different, you know, you're just not, the lens has changed, you know, but the viewer is still there constantly, like all the time. And that's that like energy. Yeah. But it's like everything is filtered. So it was this feeling that our entire reality is just a bunch of filters that we put on this right. energy that flows, you know, like a river. Mm-hmm. And so you're removing the filters, but the river is still flowing. It's still always there. It's just now it's not directed into a little focal point, you know, or have that focus, which yeah. could be us. So it's just back to that pure flowy pool river, but the essence of it is still there. There was no change to it. It was just a deconstruction of it. It was pulling all of the layers and stuff. But it was also an understanding that the layers aren't necessarily something that we should. They're important for us being here too. You know, I know a lot of people in the spiritual community are like, remove all your layers, remove all the ego, remove all that stuff. But that's kind of that was the anchor point for being here. Like your body is what's anchoring you here in this reality. And without it, you just go back to that consciousness. So we sign up to have an ego or whatever we want to call it. We're signing up to inherit these filters. Otherwise, you would just keep floating back up there. So you need the anchor, you know, like our consciousness is buoyant, I think, like we're naturally getting pulled up there, and that's like the yanking. But those things, those little dramas, those little like human quirks, those little things keep us here in like a good way. Like that's what we signed up for. And they're just judge them as bad all the time, but they're not actually bad. They're just, I don't know how to explain it. They're just the little anchor points. So like if you have like a buoy or like a bobber, like if you're fishing, you know, on the top, you need a little bit of weight to keep that bobber underwater, which this reality would be the underwater part. So we need it, you know, and you can get up to the surface and you can come down, but without it, there would be no point in being here. So like you have to, so I think that was another big takeaway of just, it's okay. Like nothing's judging you. Like this is all part of the experience of being here. It's just about relaxing into it and just making sure you're doing the things that you want to be doing, that bring you joy and that make you happy, and realizing that like your time is so precious, like to use it the way that you really want to, but there's no right or wrong or shoulds or anything.
Right, they are essential parts of this experience, right? Like we don't have to fight with them or try to get rid of them, or, you know.
And I think that's something that's so misunderstood, is so many people are trying to like have those ego death experiences and remove it. The only reason to experience it is to just be reminded of what's there. It's not to stay there, because you would have never came here, you know,
right,
if you just wanted to stay there. So it's just about being like, oh, that's right, I am safe. That's right, I am protected. That's right, I do come from this infinite place. Okay, I'm good. You know, it's almost just sort of like when you grow up and you leave your parents' house or whatever, and you venture out into the world, you call your parents as often as you need to feel safe or to make sure that they're okay and have that connection. But it doesn't mean, you know, at some point you let go of their hand and you live your life, and that's a beautiful thing. And that's kind of what you came here to do, is to just be like, okay, I'm going to leave that behind. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to be my own individual expression and experience myself in different ways and figure out all this stuff. But yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah, that is such an amazing statement, you know. It's so, it feels so free, you know, like just to relax and where you are, and you know, you're in this experience for some reason, and you just came here to live it and enjoy it.
Yeah, and also that's such a, the other thing that was a big takeaway was that the answer to all of your questions are going to be so specific to you and your journey for being here. You know, like a lot of people are trying to find what's our purpose for being here, and that's going to look different for every single person. Some people will come here to take care of, you know, to be a mother, and that's their whole life purpose, and they will find that sense of purpose in being a mother. And other people will come here because they don't want to change the world, they just want to have fun, they just want to, you know, they just want to hike and do cool things. And some other people will be here to write bestsellers or create movies that change the world or be famous artists or something like that. But there's not one size fits all, you know, and you know it's your purpose because it makes you feel open and expansive and just aligned, and everything is just like really synced up with that. But it doesn't, there's not one purpose that fits all, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it changes throughout everything. I always say people always spend so much time and money on trying to like be more spiritual or try to do this. But if your passion is cooking in the kitchen and you love getting to experience and be creative and the family time that that brings, and you just feel happy doing it, then don't spend your money on like all these crystals and books. Go to the grocery store and buy food and ingredients and give yourself time each day to, because that's the best thing you can do for yourself, because that's the expression that you're bringing into this reality. And that's what's so exciting about it, because then you get all these cool things about it. Like, well, maybe you're obsessed with cooking because in a previous lifetime, you never got to do that. And so you're like, you know what? I want to go next time and I want to be a chef, you know? And that's what makes it so beautiful, because it's more than just this one lifetime. It's this infiniteness, and that you're in control of it and you get to do it. And so it's such a disservice to yourself not to honor those passions and honor those things that like bring you so much joy, because you're the narrative of our lives and our consciousness is so much bigger beyond just 70 years or 80 years or however long we are here. The narrative goes multiple lives, multiple universes, multiple, you know, on and on and on. And so it's so important to, you know, we all don't want to write the same chapter together here, you know, all the time. Like you want to make sure you're telling your story in the long, infinite picture. And it's beautiful and exciting. So
That's why it's so important to follow what you like, right?
Yeah, follow that internal GPS, and also give yourself permission that what feels right to you today might look completely different than it did a year ago. And it might be exactly the right message for you today might be the exact flip-flop of what it will be a year from now, you know, because we're constantly changing, and this energy is constantly changing, and that's how it's supposed to be, because we're looking at it from all these points of view, and we're being guided moment by moment by moment. So, you know, if one day it's go down this road, the next day it might be go down that road, or change this career that once brought you so much joy, but maybe there's a point in your life where it doesn't anymore, and it's like, no, it's time to change it now. It's constantly changing. So be okay with that feeling of like, it's the attachment to the beliefs and the attachment to those things that really like get us stuck, because then we're clinging to like this stationary version of us. But if you just keep yourself open to the fact that you're guided on a daily basis, and don't judge if your lesson today or your message today is different than it was a couple weeks ago, that's okay. You're allowed to do that. You're ever changing. So
that's so important, because we have this notion in society that, you know, you study something and then you just have to focus in that for the rest of your life. And if you, at the middle of it, you just say, I don't like to do this anymore, and it's so fixed, like we have to like something for all our lives. And
yeah, no, yeah, you're allowed to change it whenever you want. You're allowed to be whoever you are at any moment. You're allowed to start your life over at any moment, or change it, or anything you want. You just have to give yourself permission for it. And we struggle with that a lot of times, because well, not everyone, but a lot of people, there's this feeling sometimes like we're taught that there's this entity that's kind of judging us, or there's this idea of a right path and a wrong path for our lives. And it's just not true. We just are the way that this energy just is. And we're just here living and experiencing. And we're just riding on this river, and that's it. That was another takeaway from the experience too, of what I was mentioning with the memory card, was that it felt like I was collecting all of these experiences of my life, these dreams, these memories, all of it, and that there was a bigger purpose to it beyond just this life, beyond just this reality. Like all of this experience, I was taking it somewhere and using it for something else, because it felt like these energetic beings that I was surrounded with, like they were going to take that information, and they were so excited and so happy that I brought it to them. And I was like, okay, I don't know. But it was this feeling of just like, oh, my purpose goes so much further beyond just this 3D reality. So much, it goes across dimensions. It goes across things that I'm not even aware of. I can't consciously be aware of them. But it's going somewhere. It's having a purpose beyond all of this. And I once read a book that was similar. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. It's a really popular book. It's a really good book. It was interesting. I read it. It's a woman's brother passes away, and she ends up like channeling him from the other side, and he's giving his post afterlife experience, is channeling it through her. And there's a moment in that book where he had something similar, actually. And I remember when it happened during my experience, I was like, oh, that's kind of what happened with him. He had like a lesson that he had learned and all this information, and he brought it back to like his tribe on the other side. And it was kind of like that. It was this feeling of just like, we're collecting something here, and we're taking, it's not over when this life is over. Everything that you can't lose any of the experience. There's no way to lose it, and you're gathering it. We're kind of like hoarders of experience, you know, and we're taking it all with us somewhere, and that's the only thing we can. But it's serving a purpose beyond anything we can conceive of.
It's such an important message for people who think that they haven't done enough in this life, you know, like with their life, maybe because they are not successful in the way we're supposed to be, or, you know, like.
Yeah, I know we put so much pressure on ourselves, and it's just so funny because all of that stuff, it limits us so much, because it narrows us down so tiny. It narrows us down to that one relationship, or that one job, or that one moment. And it's so counter to what our actual nature is, which is just infinite and continuous and expanding all the time, that it's almost funny, you know, like it's like this, it's like getting typecasted for a role. Like, you don't need to typecast yourself, you know, like an actor. Don't do that to yourself. You can play any role you want, like, you're allowed to. It goes beyond just that one-hit wonder. You know, like when people have a one-hit wonder song, you're not a one-hit wonder. You're so much more than that. You've got albums inside of you.
And all this information, you just understood all this like in one moment?
Yeah. So that was really interesting too. It was very, as it had started, it was this feeling of, yeah, instantaneous. As soon as I had a question, as soon as I was curious about something, all of the answer came instantaneous. The information came instantaneous. And when I met those beings on the other side and they were surrounding me, that was really interesting too, because it felt like I could look into their bodies and I could understand anything that I wanted to know about them. Like, that would answer it. And then when I reached that place of light, it was, yeah, it's really interesting. It really is, you just understand everything, all of it, and everything makes sense. And any questions you have, but you don't really have questions because you understand everything. It's almost like before you ask the question, you see the answer, the perspective of it. And it's so funny because you feel like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. Like, I'm never going to, like, I'm, you know, the world's so different now for me and stuff. But there is a period where you lose it, you forget a little bit of it. Like, I can remember a lot of it, but also the only thing you can take with you is the feeling, you know? So, and that's true for all of us. And I think what I experienced is something that people experience multiple times throughout their life. And I think we all have experienced similar things right before incarnating into this life. So, you know, all of this, everything I'm saying, you already know. I'm just reminding you of something that you're aware of. All this already, we all are. And you know it from that feeling, if it resonates to you, if it's that truth. And then you're like, oh, right, yeah. And that's basically all it is.
I think that's why it feels so joyful when you listen to all this information, you know, like your experience and other NDEs, like you feel connected to that because, you know, I mean, we don't remember, but we have lived that before, right? So
yeah, totally. And to me, it feels like there are some really specific basics that I took back with me that I'll never forget. I know, and one of them was, it felt, I could see it actually. I could see it in other people. I could see it. I could still see it sometimes. Like, there's these valves, like energy valves inside of all of us in our bodies, like actual valves, kind of like chakras or whatever you want to call it. To me, they looked a little different, but the energy, it allowed that conscious energy to just flow freely in and out of our bodies. And that really our only job is to just keep those valves open. And that the most important valve, the largest one, was the heart. And that one felt most important because it had the power to override any other valves. Like, it was like the primary one. And it was right here in the chest. And if we just focus on keeping that open, you don't have to worry about anything else. Like, literally, that was it. Just keep that heart valve open and keep your energy open. And you can actually feel it in your body whenever you're faced with something that doesn't feel right to you, or everything. You could test it out with everything, down to the food you're eating, to the television you're watching, to the videos, all of it. And that feeling that you're describing, that open, just exhilarating, like resonating feeling, that is the valve opening as wide as it can go. So now that you know what that feels like, you also know when it's tightening, when something feels off and you feel tense in your body, that kind of stuff.
Right.
As long as you know what those two things feel like, that's kind of all you need to know. And then just keep following the open feeling. And then that's it. And then that energy is going to keep flowing through you, and you're just going to be in that state, and everything around you will match up with that state. It will keep that open flow, and what's meant for you will come to you, the right people, the right circumstances. It's just a matter of giving yourself permission to follow that open valve feeling, the one that just feels good to you.
When you are you have a chronic disease or illness, or I don't know, or something hurts, or maybe cancer, stuff like that, is that like energy that is kind of blocked,
Stuck.
or yeah, stuck? So if
Yeah,
we
I think it's just stuck.
focus in our heart, that could open the rest of them.
Yes, yes. I think if you just focus on, and that goes back to like, I think when it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't think you even necessarily need to, you know, dig up childhood trauma or try to figure out that core wound and stuff. If you just allow, because the heart's pulling you forward. That's the nice thing about it. So it's gonna, if you just keep following it, it's gonna pull you into that state of healing. It'll bring you the healing modality that you need. It'll bring you the relationships and the people and the circumstances that will bring you into alignment with your healing. You don't have to focus so much on the past. Sometimes when you focus too much on those tight spots, or the, you know, it can help to go back there, and you can do that and clean out those energy places and do that kind of like deep work and stuff. But even then, when you're done with it, you need to let it go, because you want to keep getting pulled forward into the new reality. And some people get stuck focusing on their trauma a little too much, or they just start focusing on it too much. And that's kind of focusing on a past situation. But the big thing is just understanding that this energy, this life force, this, your guides, your angels, whatever, they are trying to heal you. You are self-healing. If you just follow that heart centered forward, that's all you got to do. It's really that simple, because it's guiding you to that energy flowing fully, you know? And it'll blast, it'll just clear, you know, like a clogged sink or something. It'll just blast it all away. You won't have to worry about like going in there and clean it out, because this has the power to blast all that away. Just keep following your heart and doing what feels uplifting and resonating to you. It's an old belief system too, I think. Like, healing needs to take place, but and this goes back to the law of attraction and stuff too. There's two ways to look at this. You know, yes, the law of attraction is real and it works, and you can manifest anything you want by using it. That's one way of living your life. And that's kind of, you know, being a co-creator of your life. But there's also another way of living, and it requires a deep state of trust and this energy and this higher self that is you. And it's a much easier way. It's much more of a surrendered way. And it just comes from, if I follow my heart forward, I will get everything that my heart desires. And because we don't even necessarily consciously know what we want half the time. So we can use the law of attraction to manifest that all the time, but then we'll get it and be like, oh, this didn't make me as happy as I thought it was. It's because that's a lot of like other valves in your body, you know, like the other chakras you're using, like your third eye, your mental one, it's using those, which is great. But the shortcut, your heart, and bring you your heart's desires, and you won't have to focus so much on doing a ton of manifestation and that kind of stuff, because your energy will already be matched from a heart-centered level. So only heart-centered energy can match up with you. And so that's a really exciting place to be, because then you're experiencing surprises. And that's sometimes when you're dealing with manifestation, it's just like, great, this is what I ordered, and you'll get what you ordered. But also there's a state of, and this is where bliss and joy comes from, and faith and trust in the universe and all that stuff, of just let it surprise you, you know, let it spoil you, instead of you feeling like it's all up to you. And the same is true with healing, is you can heal yourself, because ultimately it's all you. But right. If it's coming from a heart-centered place and a surrendered place, it's like trying to consciously remember to breathe all the time. Yeah, that you would spend your whole life trying to remind yourself, I have to breathe, I have to breathe, I have to breathe. You didn't come here to spend your whole life just reminding yourself to breathe all the time. There's a power, there's an involuntary system in your body that takes care of it, so you could do more fun stuff. I always say this too, one takeaway that was a big takeaway from me, from my experience, and I made a video about this once, is when it comes to like law of attraction and manifestation.
Yeah.
It's less about it came from this understanding when I came back that there really wasn't anything to get done. Like everything was done. All, you know, because it was infinite. So everything that could happen has happened, all that stuff. So the point was just to come here and just be like, have fun, experience, and what do you want to experience? Like, what did you, you know, how do you want to engage with life? Because you know you're really lined up when you start feeling appreciation and gratitude as a natural reaction to your life. That's when you know you're really in alignment, versus like, you know, sitting down and trying to find gratitude for every little thing. But when you move into a state of feeling your way through life and feeling it from here, then you will rearrange your life in a different way where that feeling of gratitude is just a natural reaction most of the time. You know, like it's not something you have to force, it's not something you have to journal or write down or set aside discipline. It's not something you have to discipline. It's just something that will be naturally reactive to the life that you've created. And your power as the co-creator is just making the decision every day, I'm gonna live from this place. I'm gonna live from this place, you know? And when you make that decision, that's your power as a co-creator. And then it gets really fun. And one of the shifts that took place for me was I understood, oh, everything's already done. So when it comes to law of attraction and manifestation, instead of seeing something as outside of myself, because nothing is outside of me, it was just all that was that energy. How do I want to experience myself? It was just this feeling of like, life is just about experiencing. That's the most important thing we can do here. So how do I want to experience myself? And then imagining what experience would bring me the most joy, and then just kind of daydreaming about that.
Oh, I love
And
that.
that's the fastest way to, yeah, that's the fastest way to manifest yourself, instead of being like, oh, I want to manifest this money, or I want to manifest this car or this career. Just ask yourself, how do I want to experience myself? Because we're the universe experiencing it. So imagine that there is a audience of angels, energetic beings that are your support system on the other side, that is very, very invested in your life, in your story, and wants to know what you're up to, and think they're your number one fan. You can do no wrong in their eyes. They just want to watch you experience. You know, like if you have like a kid, you just want to watch them experience life, everything from trying a food to looking at themselves in the mirror, all of it. And there's not a judgment to it. You're just seeing the world through their eyes. That's what's happening on the energetic realm from all of our loved ones who have passed away, from angels, guides, energy, whatever you want to call it. They're so excited for us and love us so much because they get to experience us in that same lens. And so really, they just want us to be happy and fulfilled. And all we have to do is ask ourselves, how do I want to experience myself? And and just start from there, and then feel your way to the daydream or the imagination scenario that feels good to you. And it could be anything, and it doesn't matter. But that's pretty much our only job. It's really that simple.
That
There's
sounds so
no
fun.
it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Michael, what do you think about karma? Because I feel like there's so much confusion about it. Like, what do you understand in your experience about karma?
I think so. There's a few questions that I always get a lot of questions about karma, and I get a lot of questions about soul contracts and twin flame
Right.
relationships. Those are what everyone wants to know.
Great.
So really, you have to just imagine. We create this boundary of life and death as if it's this like actual split in something, and it's not. It's as simple as me looking out my window and watching someone else play in the street, and I'm here. That's literally all it is. It's just that simple of you're here, I'm here. So sometimes these soul contracts or karma, whatever you want to call it, which I'll break down a little more in a second, is just me sitting here in my room, looking out the window, watching some other people play in the street or something, and me deciding I want to go play with them. That's it. And the contract or whatever is just I'll incarnate the next lifetime in the street instead of in the house. and I'll get to play with them. And then I know my purpose is related to these people because I had an intention before incarnating to play with these people. These are the people that I saw. These are the relationships that are formed. And that's what happens, I believe, with our families, with our close relationships like that. And over time, we do this with each other a lot. It's like riding this roller coaster of life, and we have people that we enjoy riding with. So we jump into lifetimes together so that we can experience different perspectives. So maybe your mother now might have been your sister in a previous life and vice versa. You know, like maybe you meet someone in this life that you have this deep best friend connection with, who's your best friend in the whole world, and you guys had so much fun this life that after you both pass away, you both are like, we should do that again, but we were such great friends before. Why don't we try to be lovers this next lifetime, you know? And then, okay, great. Well, let's be like twin flames or something, or let's be, you know, let's be deep soul romantic lovers this next time. And then the next lifetime, you've forgotten everything, you don't remember, and then you find each other, and then you're like, I feel like I have this deep connection with you, and I feel so good around you and stuff. And then you're experiencing this new perspective of each other together. And it doesn't matter if it has ups or downs, because the only intention was to experience this new perspective of each other. So right. That to me is kind of all it really is. As far as karma goes, I don't think there's anything judging us. I don't think there's anything I don't think there's any payoffs or anything. I think it's like an energy spectrum, right? Or like a waveform. So there's a peak and a trough. And in order for that wave to move forward, it has to vibrate on both of those levels. So as far as the idea of karma goes, it's just the balance of the wave, that whatever the peak is, there has to be a trough, and that's how it propels itself forward. And I think that's what happens to all of us, but it's not a judgment. It's not a drama. It's, if you run a marathon all day, you're going to need to rest for a couple days after. Right. But nothing's punishing you. It's just, you need to balance a little bit. You need to rest because you exuded a lot of energy doing this. And since your anchor point is a human being, that means you also have to balance the human being side of yourself. You know, there's, it's exactly what we are experiencing. It's basically feels like, and this is the, like, us living in a, you know, a reality where duality is important, like light and dark and all that kind of stuff. It's just, we just need 2 anchor points is all it is. So we have our spiritual anchor point that's up there, and then we have our human one here, and it's just finding the balance there. But nothing's judging us. I don't think anyone's paying off any karmic debts or anything like that. I think a lot of times if we have a relationship or something, we might remember things from a past life in that relationship, and it might feel like, oh, this person was like abusive to me in another lifetime or something. You don't have to pay off karma by, like, you know, being nice to them all the time or something. You know, like, you're allowed to, because, and here's the reason why I don't believe in karma as debt like that, because from the other side, from that perspective, you understand that everyone is this light, everyone is this love, and that we're all going through certain things and we agree to certain things. Some people come here and agree to having really difficult lives for the sake of what comes next, you know? And from that perspective, all you feel, and if you could see everyone in that way, all you would feel is empathy. And that's how this consciousness is. It really just is this unconditional loving source, because it sees your whole story. Right. And it's like when you watch a movie and you have like a villain, but if you got the villain's whole story, you would feel empathy for that. There's no paying off like any old karmic debts, because we're all at the end of our lives going back to that place where we're reminded and healed. And if you're getting like a reset heal button at the end of every life, you know, I think some people might like jump into the next life without like taking too much of a break, you know, or something, and might repeat patterns or something like that. But nothing hard and fast, nothing is judging you. There's no judgment. It's just pure empathetic perspective. And that's the healing. The healing isn't even necessarily, it's just seeing the full picture. And you rise to this place where you can see the full picture. And when you see the full picture, your only response can be empathy and love, because you're seeing the whole story. So it's not even a healing. And that comes back to your question earlier of like healing. It's not something you have to work for. It's just a shift in perspective where you see it all fully and you're just like, and you feel it in your heart. You just feel this like empathy because you see it all. And then that's the healing. Healing is just, you know, being seen and heard from an empathetic person. You know, that's all therapy really is. It's you telling your story and someone feeling empathy and love for it and seeing you fully for that.
Listen to it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so beautiful because it feels like when you're saying this, for me, it just feels so much love, you know, like so much sense, because we sometimes think somebody's judging us, or we have to do things a certain way, or bad things are going to happen, you know, like, but it's so freeing to know that it's just love in that, from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think a good place to start with anything, especially, you know, we'll go back to people who are trying to heal from chronic conditions.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself, instead of usually in that mindset, you're always asking yourself, how can I heal? How can I make this go away? How can I do this? Instead, ask yourself every day, as often as possible, what would my life look like if there was nothing left to heal? And then live your life from that perspective. Start doing little things each day. Really take the time to imagine, what would my life look like if there was nothing left for me to heal? On a physical level, on an emotional trauma level. What if all of your childhood trauma was healed? Good job, you did it. You did all the work. There's nothing left for you to heal. Now what? What's your life gonna look like? What are you gonna spend your time doing? Who are you gonna spend your time with, you know? And then just live from that perspective, and then everything else will catch up. But try to focus on that new reality that's trying to pull you in forward, and it's going to come from that heart space.
And I wanted to ask that, from your knowledge that you got there, how do you understand how we create our reality?
There's a lot of things I would have to say about that. So there's collective reality, and then there's our individual realities. And before incarnating here, we agree to, and basically reality is just a collection of beliefs and agreements. That's it. So jumping into this reality, we sign up for, okay, I'm jumping into a reality where people follow this set of rules and agreements. Mm-hmm. They're manifesting a world where, you know, there's human bodies, there's these kind of relationships, there's jobs and money and all these kind of things. Which is why it's actually been, I know the last few years have been very challenging for a lot of people, but they've also been very exciting because we're seeing reality completely shift and obliterate because people are letting go of those beliefs and agreements. And that's all reality is a collection of beliefs and agreements. So when you let go of some of them and you adopt new ones, your reality is going to shift. In a very tangible physical level, we'll see that because the collective agreements. So when it comes to manifestation, or how do you co-create, or how do you have the life that you want, it's really just, what's the quote? Neville Goddard said it really well. And it's just whatever you're willing to accept and consent to being true about yourself, whatever you're willing to accept to being true about who you are. So pick something good, you know, consent to being a loving, unconditional light being. But whatever your belief about yourself is really going to be your reality. If you believe poorly about yourself, whether it's true or not, that's what your reality is going to be. Which is why if you just remove all of your beliefs, you'll go back to your true nature, which is that heart-centered place where the universe will remind you of who you are, and it's going to remind you your love and light and here and all that stuff. But as far as like co-creating and stuff, it's really just, if you want to see something, just work on accepting a new belief about yourself and make sure you're picking beliefs about yourself that feel good. And that's what, you know, traditional like spiritual healing is. It's, you know, mirror talk and, you know, affirmations and taking the time to really love yourself through it and get to a state of self-love, which I know this is a common thing in a lot of near-death experiences. And I didn't fully understand it until mine. The crucial importance of self-love and how absolutely necessary it is, because if this is our collective reality that we're all sharing, right? So the earth, this planet, it's this collective reality that we're all playing in. It's a sandbox. But the first initial, the takeaway from it too was each individual human being was its own dimension. And your first and foremost important dimension is you. And the reason why self-love is so important is because it's kind of like in quantum physics, you need an observer for something to exist. Right. You are your first observation of yourself. So you exist because you're consciously observing yourself. So if you forget about yourself too long, you start to fade away, and then you become a collective belief. You become everyone else's collective belief, because then they're projecting, you know, because they're the consciousness observing you. That's why it's so important for you to know like who you are and have that alone time, that time where you're connecting with your inner self and having that self-love place, because the more you do that, the more you're actually solidifying yourself into this reality, which is why that's like the first step to any healing journey is self-love, because you've got to bring yourself back into this reality. And to do that, you've got to consciously observe yourself through love. And that's what's going to be that healing aspect. And from my perspective, that it wasn't just words or concepts, like that was actually physical, tangible truth. Like it was solid. Like you're actually solidifying who you are here in this reality, in your place, by observing yourself with that kind of self-love. And it's really important for that. Otherwise everyone else is going to be observing you, and you're going to kind of morph into what they're consciously projecting onto you. So it's important to keep bringing yourself back to center all the time.
Right. What about past lives?
So from my experience, yeah, it's all simultaneously happening at the same time. And we're only experiencing it because we're focusing our attention on it. So we are controlling time by our focus. We're all kind of time travelers. We're all in control of time by how much you're focusing on something. Oh. And our consciousness is focusing itself into this human body. So we're experiencing it this way, and we're processing it linearly. Not all of the time, actually. There's probably been, like when we dream, or there's lots of out-of-body experiences people have where we pull ourselves out of that linear time. And I think that's what's happening a lot when people talk about, you know, spiritual awakening or whatever. We're just becoming more aware of the fact that we exist not just in this dimension, but we exist in multiple dimensions. And just our awareness of that blurs the lines, and it messes with time a little bit and all that stuff. So the idea of past lives, for example, that concept exists as long as we believe that we are linearly jumping from one life to the next. But the truth is, it's all happening simultaneously. And as more and more people accept that, we'll be experiencing that more and more as well. Because really, it's just this infinite pool of loving light energy. And it's almost like, imagine a little raindrop dropping from a cloud, you know, and it's just that one focal point, and then another one dropping here. The only thing that's giving it any linear idea that these are separate or apart is the observer, because that's how you're processing it. That's how you're consciously observing it. But the truth is, it's not. It's all the same. It's all simultaneously happening. So after this life, if you feel like jumping into, you know, BC time or 1,000 years ago, you can. And it's not even, it won't be past necessarily. It'll just be another one, just a simultaneous dimension in reality.
So right now, our main focus would be in this body.
Yeah, and the reason why that's really exciting too, to me, the big takeaway of that is, for a long time, a lot of like spiritualities and religions put the power outside of you, you know, sometimes of like, oh, why am I here, blah, 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 and stuff. It's much more empowering to take the time to realize, well, if I chose to come into this life, then that's a starting place to say, when you're going through your life, you know, and that's the easiest place. That's a good way to find joy too, of just being like, I chose to come here for a reason. So that means there's something here that's going to bring me a lot of joy. Something was enticing about me coming here, you know, something made me say, yes, that's where I want to be. So you should never lose hope just because of that reason, just because you, at some point, your consciousness decided that's what I want to be doing. So you could trust that and when you find that, that'll end up being your purpose. It'll feel so good to you. You'll be like, I found it. This must be why I came here. But you're not a victim of circumstances, and coming here as a human isn't some like karmic fate that you're having to pay off, debts or dues or anything. Imagine like you decided, I want to be next. I want to be the next, like I want to go there and I want to do these things. And it was the choice that you made from a higher perspective, a perspective that could see everything. And so you chose this life during this time period with all this going on, as crazy as it can be, for some reason. And just knowing that and having that open mentality of like, well, I'll let that version of me, that higher self version that chose to incarnate, just start by being like, tell me why, show me why I came here. When you're in like a despair place or a really sad, depressed place, just start by saying like, hey, I came here for something. And it's very empowering to me to understand that like that energy is also us. It's collective, but it's also us. And like, I think we have a lot of say and choice into us incarnating here. We're not just given, they're not orders, like they're intentions that we get to set. And so you being here set that intention. And that's also why I think people at the end of their lives, you hear a lot of people like need permission to go and stuff, because ultimately we are deciding every day to be here, and we can decide to leave whenever we want also. So we also decide to come here. So just whatever it is in this present life, there are past lives going on, there's simultaneous lives going on, there's multiverses, and they're very exciting and stuff, and they can help us unlock some of those reasons that maybe we would have come here. But also making sure that we honor the intention, the original intention that we came here for a reason into this present life, and what does that mean?
Right. Do you think this experience that you lived was part of your purpose?
Yeah, I think I definitely think so. I think it's always been a part of it, but also if in a few years or something I decide I don't want to do it anymore, that's also fine too.
Right.
I'm not tied to it. I'll do it as long as it brings me joy and I have fun to it. And when I'm done, something else will present itself and I'll find a new purpose, and that'll come along. I don't want to forget. It's nice to me to talk about it. And the reason why it feels good to me is because as more time goes on, it's harder and harder for me to remember some of those things. So the more I talk about it, the more those feelings and memories start coming back. So it just feels good to talk about it. So as long as it continues to feel good to talk about it, it will be part of my purpose, because it's opening up everything inside of me. But we have multiple purposes, like,
that's true.
Like a mother has a purpose as long as she's a mother, but then she also has so many other purposes as well beyond just that. And they can constantly change all the time. The ultimate purpose at its baseline, in my opinion, is just to experience, because that's the point of it, to experience everything and not like half experience, like really feel it all. Feel the up emotions, feel the down emotions, really let yourself, like if we are all just like playing these parts in this world and we're here as these human beings, fully commit to the character, just let yourself get lost in it and forget yourself. And if you sometimes get too lost, and I think that's what happens, we get too lost into it sometimes and we get scared, know that these conversations are just to be like, no, remember, you're good. You just got really lost in the character, which is good. It means you were doing a good job, but also like you're safe. It's just a character,
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I love these kind of conversations because I have watched so many NDEs and channeling Eric.
I don't think so.
Well, there's a book too. It's a mom that lost her son and started channeling with mediums. through mediums.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, when my mom transitioned, it was so helpful for me, and to have that tool. And I felt it was completely healing. Like it could heal me in the moment I had this communication through the medium. But now I practice more just to feel her and to see how she feels. And so
yeah. If anything, it's real. It's you're not crazy. It's actually real. And if you don't believe it and you feel sometimes like you might be crazy or did I make that up, ask for it to prove itself over and over again. You know, like your loved ones, your mother I used to do a lot of mediumship readings for people, and I used to question every day, am I crazy? Am I making this up? Like, what's going on? And then I could ask, okay, well, then tell me something I can't know otherwise, you know? And they'll deliver, they'll show up, and then you'll get the proof that you need, if that's what you need. But also the idea of like life and death and the separation between it, there is no separation. There's no line that's drawn ever there. And it's almost like if you can imagine a world where we didn't have those words at all, you know, and you just didn't know anything, like you were just like a complete blank slate and you experienced that, what would you think it was? You know, if no one told you what it was, you just, you know, they went somewhere. That's all you say. Like they went somewhere. I don't know. And then you would feel them afterwards, and you'd be like, "Oh wait, they're coming back. Are they coming back? I feel them here now." You know, like what is this? You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes. You forget, but then if you connect with that part of yourself, like when I feeling more happy is when I feel them easier. You know. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing to how close they are, because they can do things in physical too. Like my cousin started doing things for my aunt. Like for 6 months, we light on a candle, mm-hmm. and he made like with the wax, he made like different shapes every day.
Mm-hmm. Totally, because I think when we're in that state of pure joy and pure bliss, we become a channel for them also. Like it's no longer, we almost co-pilot our bodies in those states, and we allow them to come through us, and you'll feel it sometimes. Like, and that's, you know, if you start doing a hobby that your mom used to do all the time and you find joy doing it, there's a moment where her energy almost enters yours and you're co-piloting your own body for a second, and you're doing it together, and you're feeling her presence so close to you, because it actually is. It's not just in your head. Her energy is actually starting to flow through you because your valves are open in that state. You know, you're sharing with her, and we're just sharing those dimensions and realities, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's really fun. But that's it. We're just supposed to have fun with it and be curious and have wonder and awe about it all. And also, I wanted to say, for whoever's listening to this, it's also okay to forget sometimes. That's part of the cycle of remembering and forgetting. And that's just kind of how it goes. And if it's been a long time since you've remembered this stuff, that's fine. Or that's something I've had to learn to do. If there comes a I forget all of it, that's just the part of the process of it. And that's the ups and downs and the cycles we go through. Of if you're feeling lost or scared, or you forget that you're connected to a spiritual being, you know, that's okay. Like the stakes aren't that big. And usually that's when people have a lot of breakthroughs on the other side of it. And that's when you'll see a lot of personality changes, or people have these big midlife crises where they, you know, or they start to forget who they are, and they question everything, they question reality. It's not necessarily a bad or scary thing, because what will happen in those moments, and this is kind of exciting, is you'll find something that will remind you on the other side of it of who you are. And it'll probably be something that you never did before. So you'll discover a whole new aspect of yourself. So I can tell you, I went through like a deep depression when I was like 13 years old, when I was really young. And I had forgotten a lot of this stuff. I had forgotten who I was. I had gotten caught up in the character too much. And I discovered playing tennis on the other side of it. And that helped me remember again. And I started processing things better. And I just felt so full of joy. And that became like an identifier for my life. It changed my life because I played tennis in college. My whole life changed from that moment. And then there might be another time in your life where you forget again, you know, you lose yourself again, and then something else comes along to remind you of it. And then you'll discover something totally new. And that can be a defining thing in your life that was like, this was whatever. It's like when you read a memoir. I'm reading a memoir right now. There's never just like one challenge in life, you know, it's constantly happening. And I think it's healthy to just accept that there's going to be times when you feel that way, when you forget, and there's going to be times when you remember. And that's what a life looks like. That's what the journey looks like. And that's what is helping form who you are. Because then at the end of it, when you've gone through those moments and you've discovered new loving relationships, new hobbies, new places, new careers, because you're reinventing yourself after these moments, or you're saying, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. I don't feel safe anymore. Let me find something that makes me feel safe and reminds me who I am. You're going to discover a whole new aspect of yourself, and it's going to be a whole new experience. And that's the point. And that goes back to what I mentioned before of like, if what you're hearing today might not resonate in a year or 2 years.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Like, because I know a lot of kind of spirituality, I hate hearing, well, I don't hate, but when people say like, oh, you're woke, or people are awakening, people are just constantly in this cycle. And so like, if you grew up really religious, and that gave you that sense of infinite connection and this feeling of protection, all that stuff, that was right for you during that time, you know? It's not that it was wrong. It's not that it wasn't whatever. And if you go, and then 10 years later, you find a different form of spirituality, you get into mediumship, you get into psychics, you get into near-death experiences. That's right for you now. And then maybe in 10, 20 years, maybe you'll want to go back to a different religion completely. It's all right. Yeah, and it's all okay, because it's all, this was a huge lesson that I got from the experience, was this infinite loving presence will meet you wherever you're most receptive. And that's kind of what happens when you go through something really challenging. A part of yourself closes off, so you're not open to receive that love or that safety or protection from there anymore. So you've got to learn how to receive it from here, which means it's going to look different, you know. So whatever so whatever belief system you have, whatever your life looks like, it changes because it's that consciousness, it's that loving energy trying to get you to receive that love. And yeah, if you get hurt sometimes, you know, you need healing, something closes up a little bit. Okay, well then I need to get healing here. I need to be, you know, but it will meet you wherever you're most receptive, and that's going to change throughout your life.
Michael, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the storm.
Oh no, it's okay. I grew up in Florida, so I totally understand rain and storms.
Yeah, I don't know why it got crazy right now. Thank you so much for doing this. I could chat with you for hours, but already more than an hour. Thank you so much. I hope in the near future, maybe we can do another one, maybe a live one with questions or stuff like that.
Yeah, I would love that. I love talking about it. Just send me a message. This was really fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for doing this, really.
Of course, I appreciate you too. Gracias.
This has
of
been
course.
Amazing.
Bye.
Bye.